Listen up, because what I'm about to tell you might completely change the way you shop for mayonnaise. That creamy spread you've been slathering on your sandwiches could be hiding some seriously questionable ingredients. And here's the kicker. The most popular brands on the shelf are often the worst offenders. We're talking about inflammatory oils that mess with your body's natural balance, hidden sugars that spike your blood sugar, and preservatives that sound more like something from a chemistry lab than a kitchen. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which 5 mayonnaise brands to leave on that grocery store shelf and which 3 are actually worth your money. This isn't just about being picky or obsessing over labels. This is about protecting your health and making informed choices about what you're putting into your body every single day. Let's talk about mayonnaise for a second. At its core, this condiment should be incredibly simple: eggs, oil, vinegar or lemon juice, and maybe a pinch of salt. That's it. 4 or 5 ingredients max. That's how mayonnaise was made traditionally for hundreds of years. But somewhere along the way, food manufacturers decided that wasn't good enough, and they started pumping these jars full of ingredients you can barely pronounce. We're talking about inflammatory oils, artificial preservatives, added sugars, and emulsifiers that have no business being in your food. The worst part is that these companies slap words like real and natural on their labels to make you think you're buying something wholesome, when in reality you're getting a product that's about as far from natural as you can get. It's all marketing, designed to make you feel good about your purchase, while they're actually selling you something that undermines your health with every spoonful. The first brand you absolutely need to avoid is Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise. I know, it's been a staple in American kitchens for generations. Your grandmother probably used it, your mother probably used it, and you've probably been using it without thinking twice. It's practically an American institution at this point. But here's the problem. Despite that real label that sounds so reassuring, this mayo is made primarily with soybean oil, which is one of the most inflammatory oils you can consume. Soybean oil is highly processed and loaded with omega-6 fatty acids that throw off your body's natural balance. Now, don't get me wrong, you need some omega-6 fatty acids in your diet. They're essential for certain bodily functions, but the typical American diet is already overloaded with them. We're consuming omega-6 south at a ratio that's completely out of whack with omega-3 south, and this imbalance is a major driver of chronic inflammation in the body. The ideal ratio should be somewhere around 4:1 or even 2:1, but most Americans are consuming omega-6 south to omega-3 seconds at a ratio of 15:1 or even 20:1. That's absolutely wild when you think about it. When consumed in excess, these omega-6 south can contribute to inflammation, which is linked to everything from heart disease to arthritis to autoimmune conditions to even certain types of cancer. Plus, most soybean oil comes from genetically modified crops that have been heavily sprayed with pesticides like glyphosate, which has been classified as a probable carcinogen by the World Health Organization. Not exactly what you want in your potato salad or on your BLT, and the processing that soybean oil goes through is intense. It's extracted using chemical solvents, then refined, bleached, and deodorized at high temperatures. This process strips away any beneficial nutrients that might have been in the soybeans to begin with and can create harmful compounds like trans fats and oxidized lipids. Next up is Kraft Mayo. This one's a double whammy because not only does it contain soybean oil just like Hellmann's, but it's also packed with added sugar. Check the label and you'll see high fructose corn syrup lurking in there, usually listed somewhere in the middle of the ingredient list where they hope you won't notice it. Why on earth does mayonnaise need added sweeteners? It doesn't. This is just another way food companies hook you on their products by triggering those sugar cravings that keep you coming back for more. They know that sugar is addictive, and they use it deliberately to make their products more appealing and to ensure you keep buying them. High fructose corn syrup has been linked to obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, and metabolic syndrome. When you're trying to make a healthy meal, whether it's a salad or a sandwich or a wrap, the last thing you need is hidden sugar sabotaging your efforts. And here's what really gets me. They don't even list sugar as one of the first few ingredients, so most people don't realize they're consuming it. You think you're just adding a little mayo to your tuna or your chicken salad, but you're actually adding sugar without even knowing it. That's sneaky. And it's exactly the kind of thing that makes it so hard for people to eat healthy when they're relying on processed foods. You're trying to do the right thing, but these companies are working against you at every turn. The sugar industry has spent decades hiding the true effects of their product, and now it's hidden in everything from bread to pasta sauce to mayonnaise. It's nearly impossible to avoid unless you're reading every single label. Carefully. 3 The third brand to steer clear of is Miracle Whip. Now, technically Miracle Whip isn't even real mayonnaise because it doesn't meet the FDA's definition, which requires a certain percentage of vegetable oil and egg yolk. But people use it like mayo, so it absolutely deserves a spot on this list. Miracle Whip is essentially a science experiment in a jar, a triumph of food engineering over actual nutrition. It contains soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup, and a laundry list of preservatives and artificial flavors that would make a food scientist blush. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry textbook rather than a recipe your grandmother would recognize. EDTA, modified food starch, natural flavor, paprika extract for color. These are all code words for highly processed additives that have no nutritional value whatsoever. EDTA is a preservative that's used to prevent discoloration and maintain texture, but your body doesn't need it and doesn't know what to do with it. Modified food starch is used as a thickening agent, but again, it's unnecessary if you're making real mayonnaise with quality ingredients that naturally emulsify. And don't even get me started on natural flavor. That term is so vague it's almost meaningless. It can refer to dozens of different compounds derived from plant or animal sources, and companies aren't required to tell you exactly what's in there. When you see natural flavor on a label, just assume it's something they don't want you to know about. If it was something good, they'd tell you specifically what it is. The fact that Miracle Whip has been marketed as a lighter, healthier alternative to mayonnaise is laughable when you actually look at what's in it. There's nothing light or healthy about this product, except maybe the amount of actual food it contains. 4 Brand number 4 is Best Foods Mayonnaise. If that name sounds familiar, it's because Best Foods is actually the same company as Hellmann's, just sold under a different name in certain regions of the United States. West of the Rockies, you'll find Best Foods on the shelves, and east of the Rockies, it's Hellmann's. Same parent company, same formula, same problems we've already discussed. And guess what? It has all the same issues we already talked about with Hellmann's. Soybean oil is the main ingredient, making this another inflammatory nightmare waiting to happen in your kitchen. The company tries to market it as a wholesome, traditional product with their vintage packaging and nostalgic branding that makes you think of simpler times and home-cooked meals from decades past. But don't be fooled by the marketing tactics and the appeals to tradition. What's inside that jar is anything but wholesome or traditional. Real traditional mayonnaise, the kind that was made in France in the 18th century when it was invented, was made with olive oil or other quality fats, not highly processed industrial seed oils that didn't even exist until the 20th century. Those old-fashioned oils were actually good for you. They contained beneficial fats, antioxidants, and vitamins. The soybean oil in Best Foods mayo is a poor substitute that was chosen purely for economic reasons, not for health or flavor. The fifth and final brand to avoid is Duke's Mayonnaise. Now, this one might surprise some of you because Duke's has a cult following, especially in the South where it's considered the gold standard by many home cooks and chefs. People swear by its tangy flavor and the fact that it contains no sugar, which they proudly advertise right on the label and in their marketing materials. And yes, that's definitely a point in its favor compared to brands like Kraft and Miracle Whip that load their products with sweeteners. The absence of sugar means you're not getting those blood sugar spikes and crashes, and you're not feeding the sugar addiction that so many Americans struggle with. But here's the catch that Duke's fans often overlook. Duke's still uses soybean oil as its primary ingredient, while you're avoiding added sugar, which is great and definitely better than the alternative. You're still consuming that inflammatory, highly processed oil that's doing your body no favors in the long run. It's a step up from some other brands, I'll give it that. And if you're choosing between Duke's and something like Miracle Whip, Duke's is definitely the better option. But it's still not what you should be eating regularly if you care about reducing inflammation and protecting your long-term health. The tangy flavor that people love so much, which comes from a higher vinegar content, doesn't change the fact that the base ingredient is problematic. It's like putting premium gas in a car with a faulty engine. You're doing one thing right but ignoring a fundamental problem. So now that we've covered the rogues gallery of mayonnaise brands that you should be avoiding at all costs, let's talk about the good guys. The 3 brands that are actually pure, clean, and worth buying. These are the brands that understand what mayonnaise should be and aren't trying to cut corners with cheap ingredients, or load their products with unnecessary additives. These companies are doing it right, and they deserve your support and your dollars. 1 The first clean option is Primal Kitchen Avocado Oil Mayo. This is the gold standard as far as I'm concerned, and it's what I keep in my own refrigerator at all times. Instead of inflammatory soybean oil, Primal Kitchen uses avocado oil, which is rich in heart-healthy, monounsaturated fats. These are the same beneficial fats found in olive oil, nuts, and fatty fish like salmon. Monounsaturated fats have been shown to improve cholesterol levels by raising HDL, the good cholesterol, and lowering LDL, the bad cholesterol. They reduce inflammation throughout the body, support brain health and cognitive function, and may even help with weight management. The ingredient list is clean and simple: avocado oil, organic eggs, organic vinegar, salt, and organic rosemary extract as a natural preservative. No sugar, no soy, no canola oil, no weird additives or chemicals you need a degree in biochemistry to understand. Just real food that your great-grandmother would recognize and approve of. Yes, it costs a bit more than the conventional brands, usually around $8 to $10 a jar compared to $3 or $4 for the mainstream options at your typical grocery store. But you're paying for quality ingredients that actually nourish your body instead of harming it. The taste is rich and creamy with a smooth texture that spreads beautifully, and honestly, once you try it, you'll wonder how you ever ate that other stuff. I've converted so many friends and family members to Primal Kitchen, and not one of them has gone back to their old brand. The second pure brand is Sir Kensington's avocado oil mayonnaise. Like Primal Kitchen, this company uses avocado oil as its base, and they're deeply committed to using only non-GMO, responsibly sourced ingredients. They're transparent about where their ingredients come from, which is always a good sign that a company actually cares about quality and isn't trying to hide anything from consumers. The texture is creamy and rich, exactly what you want from mayonnaise, and the flavor is neutral enough to work in any recipe where you'd normally use mayo. Whether you're making coleslaw, deviled eggs, chicken salad, or just spreading it on a sandwich, Sir Kensington's delivers every single time. They also offer some interesting flavored versions if you want to jazz things up, like chipotle or garlic mayo, which are perfect for taking your sandwiches and burgers to the next level. But the classic avocado oil mayo is where it's at for everyday use and versatility. The company was started by two college friends who were frustrated with the lack of quality condiments on the market, and they've really succeeded in creating something better. They started by reimagining ketchup and then moved on to mayonnaise, and both products are exceptional. The third clean option is Chosen Foods avocado oil mayo. Chosen Foods is another brand that's leading the charge in making mayo the way it should be made, with simple, wholesome ingredients that you can feel good about eating. Their ingredient list is short and sweet: avocado oil, organic cage-free eggs, organic egg yolks, distilled vinegar, salt, organic rosemary extract, and organic lemon juice. That's it. 7 ingredients, all of which you could buy at a farmer's market or health food store. Everything you'd expect in real mayonnaise and nothing you wouldn't. No fillers, no preservatives beyond that natural rosemary extract, no inflammatory oils, no mystery ingredients. The company is also transparent about their sourcing, which is always a good sign in today's food industry where so many companies try to obscure where their ingredients come from. They work directly with avocado farmers to ensure they're getting quality oil, and they're committed to sustainable farming practices that don't destroy the environment. The mayo itself has a smooth velvety texture and a clean taste that lets the other ingredients in your recipes shine through instead of overpowering them. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking: these healthier options are more expensive, and maybe you can't justify spending that much on mayonnaise when you're trying to stick to a budget and feed a family. I get it, I really do. Money is tight for a lot of people, especially with inflation driving up the cost of everything from gas to groceries to housing. Every dollar counts when you're shopping for groceries and trying to make ends meet. But here's the thing, and I really want you to hear this because it's important: you're either going to pay for quality food now, or you're going to pay for healthcare later. Those cheap mayonnaise brands might save you a few dollars at the checkout, but they're costing you, in terms of inflammation, increased disease risk, and overall health deterioration over time. Think about it this way: chronic inflammation is at the root of so many modern diseases that are bankrupting families and overwhelming our healthcare system. Heart disease, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. The list goes on and on. When you consume inflammatory foods day after day, year after year, decade after decade, you're essentially setting yourself up for these problems down the road. And then you'll be paying for doctor visits, medications, specialist appointments, and treatments that cost way more than the difference between cheap mayo and quality mayo ever would have. A single doctor's visit can cost hundreds of dollars. Medications for chronic conditions can run thousands of dollars per year. When you look at it that way, spending an extra $3 or $4 on a jar of mayo that's actually good for you seems like a pretty smart investment in your future health and financial well-being. Plus, there's always the option to make your own mayonnaise at home, and I'm telling you, it's actually easier than you might think. I was intimidated by the idea at first too, because I thought it would be complicated or require special equipment or culinary skills I didn't have. But once I tried it, I realized how simple it really is. All you need is a blender or food processor, some eggs, avocado oil or olive oil, lemon juice, and salt. You literally just blend it all together, starting slowly and gradually increasing the speed as the mixture emulsifies, and boom, you've got fresh, homemade mayo with complete control over the ingredients. It takes maybe 5 minutes from start to finish, and you know exactly what's going into your body. No mystery ingredients, no industrial processing, no chemicals, just pure, wholesome food. The freshness really does make a difference in flavor too. Homemade mayo has a brightness and richness that store-bought versions just can't match, even the good ones. If you're really trying to save money but still want to avoid those inflammatory oils, making your own is definitely the way to go. You can make a batch for a fraction of the cost of even the cheap brands, once you account for the fact that you probably already have most of the ingredients at home. The bottom line is this: not all mayonnaise is created equal, not by a long shot. Those big-name brands that have been around forever aren't necessarily the best choice just because they're familiar, or because that's what your parents bought, or because they've got the biggest advertising budgets. In fact, they're often the worst choice because they're using cheap, inflammatory oils and unnecessary additives to maximize their profit margins at the expense of your health. Your health deserves better than that. You deserve better than that. So next time you're at the grocery store pushing your cart down the condiment aisle, skip right past that Hellmann's and Kraft, walk right by the Miracle Whip and Duke's, ignore the best foods, and reach for one of the cleaner options instead. Your body will thank you for it in ways you might not even notice at first, but over time you'll feel the difference. And honestly, you might be surprised to find that the avocado oil versions tastes even better than what you're used to, with a richer, cleaner flavor. Once you make the switch, there's really no going back to that inflammatory soybean oil sludge. Trust me on this one. Your sandwiches, your salads, your dips, and most importantly, your body and your long-term health will be all the better for it.